What's up everyone, John from ARTV. It's time for a review of the 5th studio album by 30 Seconds to Mars, a band that have been around for a while now, fronted by the actor-musician Jared Leto, a very weird and odd personality, but a very talented actor and at times a talented musician. He's somebody who has been in the limelight for a long time at this point, and I've enjoyed numerous films of his, although in recent years he just seems like he's attempting to be weird for the sake of being weird, but I can't deny that the dude has talent when it comes to acting and even sometimes as a vocalist. On this new album, America, he fights every single urge to push that talent or to showcase it in some way, as we're forced through this minefield of an album that is more inconsistent than really any other project I've heard this year. It tries to diversify by pushing its boundaries musically, and they try to fool you into thinking that they're evolving and growing. Well, if this is evolving, then I'm a fucking Pokemon master because all of my Pokemon are in their most basic form. Let's just say I don't think Professor Oak would be too proud. It seems like he started them off with a Charizard, perhaps, on their first album, the self-titled, which was pretty good, and even the follow-up, A Beautiful Lie, and at this point, they've somehow managed to wind themselves backwards to having a wounded Charmander. That's America, this new album that attempts to be political and to bridge some sort of gap between something that we're left unknown with. It seems like when Jared Leto talks about this record, he's just as out of the loop as the rest of us. It's a guessing game of him trying to juxtapose the pieces. And I keep referring solely to Jared Leto because this literally seems like a solo album. There are barely any traces of guitars or real drums on this album, so I'm wondering what exactly were the contributions from the other members of this band, and how are these songs going to be put into a live setting? Let's talk about the music because that's obviously what's important here. Despite how many times Jared Leto's ego tries to pop up and just say,
"Hey, I'm here too,"
I tried to put that out of the equation. I tried to push that away and say, you know what? Not today, Jared's ego. Let's focus on the music. And sadly, when I did succeed at pushing that away and found myself focusing on the lyrical content out of the perspective of, hey, this is Jared Leto, and I found myself looking into the production, the lyrics, the song structures, everything like that, did I find something worthwhile? God no. For whatever reason, this record rides the line between trying to be the Chainsmokers circa 2016 and trying to be John Mayer or some other folky, inspirational, electro-pop folk influence that bridges the gap between these styles of music, and there's trap influences. Yellow Claw has a production credit here, and I'm just left wondering how exactly this came to be. There's been a record label change. They're now on Interscope, so I feel like they have access to some new artists, which explains the Halsey feature, and obviously we've got a feature from A$AP Rocky on the abomination known as One Track Mind. This feels like Maroon 5 levels of selling out here, because this track is not only super monotonous, repetitive, makes you want to beat your head against the damn wall over and over again. This is one of those tracks that makes you a little bit insane because of how bad the lyrical content is, especially A$AP Rocky, who I like overall. Let's be honest, he's got some great songs, even some great mixtapes and albums under his belt. But his feature here is laughable. Not only was the lyrical content leading up to that just desperate, but here on his verse, he ends it by saying, it only takes 30 seconds to get to Mars, but it'll take you even less to get to my heart, or some iteration of that. And I wanted to vomit. As the record continues on, it becomes abundantly and painfully clear that Jared Leto really set out with this with the intentions of making something very commercial leaning. And even though he's dug into these whoas in the past, here, he relies on them like it's a crutch that he can't walk without. Nearly every single song has some iteration of that, mostly the uh-ohs, which are something that he supposedly uses to connect with audiences all over the world. And I see it as, if you're writing these songs in English and you want them to be able to translate to any language, why aren't you just making instrumentals? Because you're still writing verses, it's just you putting them lazily in the chorus, putting them out there like, oh, well, I just want everybody to be able to sing. So you want a crowd to be able to chant the entire song over and over again. It doesn't matter what the song is, you're just putting oh on every single thing. So somebody put together a compilation. This must be a super boring live show. I would know better, but I walked away both times while they were playing. I went to see them with Muse and Linkin Park, and fortunately their set got cut short during the Muse show due to rain, an act of God because somebody was portraying Jesus on stage, and that's a false prophet right there. And then during the Linkin Park 30 Seconds to Mars show, 30 Seconds opened up, and unfortunately, I just had my Linkin Park meet and greet that just happened to take place during their set. Cycling back to the beginnings of this album and the studio process, we got the single Walk on Water, which I still find to be relatively catchy. It's okay, it's nothing mind-blowing, but I can see this definitely being anthemic. It could be used at sporting events, it's good for concerts. I generally like the song, and with time, I haven't come back to it a ton, but when I hear it, maybe whether it be just in a TV advertisement, or perhaps I think I heard it at the Olympics, stuff like that, I don't mind it. It's one of those things like Centuries by Fall Out Boy. It's made for that type of crowd, and it's good, I guess, for what it is. But then moving past that, I have to say, holy shit, I'm sorry I gave Fall Out Boy so much flack for really just maybe changing their sound up so much or alienating fans or moving away from who they were, because this is just relentlessly pushing the notions of what they originally were away and just shutting it down at every little pulse of life that there is. Dangerous Night was that second single, and that just put the nail in the coffin for me, because for years I've been on the fence teeter-tottering with this band, but I heard Dangerous Night on the radio after having avoided it, but I was in a place where I didn't have my aux cord and I was forced to listen to the alternative radio station, and they were playing it, and I just gave it a listen. Unbiased, I was like, alright, they announced it's the new 30 Seconds to Mars, let's hear it. And I played this song for the first time, and the feeling that I got is, why is this happening right now? Why are you doing this to me? This is the most boring, bland attempt at a love song that tries to be mainstream. I mean, down to those watered down acoustic guitars, the Zed production, and I generally like Zed, so sorry, this one didn't work out so well. And then the way that and excessive auto-tune just drenches Jared Leto's normally good voice. It's something where I knew that this was going to be a trend on the album, and good God is it. One track Mine, Hail to the Victor, which is literally just an EDM track that has no traces of a band whatsoever. If you're into the same recycled drops that you can hear on any EDM record or track, then go for it. You'll probably like this and the Yellow Claw production, but for me personally, and other 30 Seconds to Mars fans, I think we're gonna feel a bit baffled. This album is so try-hard, so overly dramatic, so trying to be poetic and this big statement, and it's simply not. It's trying to be a tidal wave, but really, it's like tossing a penny in an ocean. It's a little blip that isn't even gonna show up on anybody's radar.
Well, John, even if it's not their best work, we should still accept them and embrace them as they try new things.
This isn't them trying new things. This is them desperately trying to crave some sort of attention from the mainstream, when in reality, it's just like every other band that does this. They try to go with this poppy mainstream sound, when in reality, it normally just tanks on the charts. Hence, there's been no Hot 100 singles from this, even though they have the help of rappers like A$AP Rocky and a very mainstream appealing sound. I'd be curious to know how the mainstream reacts to the track with Halsey, because I find it to be just way too over the top. The vocals and the production here are somewhat engaging, I can give it that, but once you get down to the lyrical content of this song and what they're actually trying to say, it's just like, was this written by two 16-year-olds? I really do like the instrumental interlude, the Monolith. That's a really nice one. The tour was named after it that they're about to embark on this summer, and it's a sweeping moment with some bombastic drums in there. Unfortunately, it's only like a minute and a half, and then we get into that Halsey track, which, like I said, I do like the production on that track. It's got a nice alluring feel to it. So I think that those two musically flow well together. It's just that unfortunately the uneven vibe of the record really gets going at that point, because we go from the Halsey feature into Great Wide Open, which is just very slow and trying to be kind of optimistic and reflecting on things, when in reality none of these songs are really saying all that much. If you look up the lyrical content on Genius, all these songs are only like this much of text. There's not that much to the lyrics, even though they act like they're making these big statements. So we go from that into something more jarring like Hail to the Victor, which is very abrasive EDM trap styled music, and then we go back into some slower stuff. Dawn Will Rise, which I find to be very tedious. Remedy, which is okay, even though it seems like Jared Leto doing an impression of somebody performing at a dive bar. And then a couple of closing tracks that are okay, I suppose. Live Like a Dream, and then the track Rider, which has been performed live a few times, I think, by the band. And I suppose it's inoffensive enough. It's just, I guess, hard to hate when it's surrounded by so many other villainous moments that I just want to tear into. This album is not good. This album is not worth your time. This album is extremely inconsistent, and this record screams desperation from a band that really wants attention but don't know how to do it other than following trends. This album is boring. This album is try hard, and this album, by 30 Seconds to Mars, the new in America, is getting a 1.5 out of 5 from me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below. I'm sure the 30 Seconds to Mars fan base is really sounding off on me right now, so it'd sure be sweet if you could leave me a like on this video to outweigh all those dislikes. If you want to check out another 30 Seconds to Mars video right here, another recent review right over here, lots more on the way. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you soon on ARTV.